Ganesh, 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 Ganesha, Ganesh, 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 Ganesha, the cube of space, Ganesha, Ganesh, 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 Ganesha, Ganesh, 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 Ganesha. Let's see. Got to get this going. Thank you to the brilliant Carolyn Tilley, who fashioned this, constructed it, and made it years ago for me when I first got into my Ganesha mantra, invocation, evocation, banishing ceremony. Isn't that precious? Even got a single tusk. I think there are a couple of Ganesha hatchets and things like that inside that we're going to have to get to sooner or later. Anyway, yes, yesterday one of the viewers here on my site left a comment about when am I going to talk about Ganesha. And I've talked about Ganesha before and such. But maybe, and as you can see behind me here in my office, Constance has put up many of my Ganesha statues and things like that people have given me over the years. And also, you'll notice there's the Masonic G. Now, I would not venture to say that the Masonic G stands for Ganesha, but because Ganesha stands for everything, it does indeed encompass even the Masonic G. And if you're familiar with the golden spiral, okay, that what is it, phi or whatever the mathematical thing is for the nautilus shell, golden spiral, which is they call it the fingerprint of God. There's no denying that it forms a G, okay, and within the context of the symbolism of Freemasonry and the great architect of the universe, if the great architect of the universe had a fundamental tonic formula, it would be that golden spiral. Be that as it may, I'm going to address here for Sunday School by reading you a couple little quotes from what I wrote concerning invocation and Ganesha and the great G. And, it might be curious to some of you because I'm a proud Thelemite and an officer in my church and everything else, my Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica. Well, why I'm so attached to and adoring of the Hindu god Ganesha. And I'm going to try to explain that in three little quotes here, and then we can get on with our Sunday and our long holiday weekend, which I hope you're all enjoying. So if I can This is, of course, from Low Magic. Does my rejection of a too literal interpretation of the scriptural worldview of the Chrisl Muse, that's Christians, Muslims, and Jews, does that make me an atheist? For those who adhere too tightly to their doctrines, I guess it does. But it certainly does not from my point of view. I most ardently believe in, indeed, I worship a supreme consciousness that is the ultimate source of all manifest and unmanifest existence. I use this quote a lot, so if you've heard it before, you have. I believe that you and I and every other monad of existence are components of the supreme consciousness. My morality, if you insist on calling it that, is based on my conviction that the ultimate nature of this super existence is transcendently good. A good that we can never adequately define with our words or understand with our meat brains. A good so all comprehensively infinite, there can be nothing outside of itself. Not even nothing. There can be no opposite to this great good. The goodness of supreme existence is spelled with the largest capital G imaginable. I call it the great G. There again, I go up making words. This great G swallows up the concept of duality. It neutralizes all concepts that remain so small that it's possible for them to have opposites. Ideas such as a God who is so small and incomplete that there's an outside of itself where a pesky devil can go around causing trouble. Ideas such as darkness and light, good little goods and evil little evils, little highs and little lows. Okay, that's that opening salvo. The great G is not the limited or parochial totem of any particular race or family or tribe or nation or cult or culture. The great G is too big to be the purview of any cult or philosophy. In fact, the great G is so big there is only one cosmic vessel capable of accommodating its more than absolute absoluteness. And that's what invocation is all about. Squeezing the great G into the only place in its own universe where it can fit. And that one place is you. One would think that it shouldn't be too difficult to connect with the great G. After all, it can never be anywhere other than completely within you and without you. There are, however, many obstacles preventing you from waking up to the reality that you already are, at this very moment, wallowing eternally in the infinite wall-to-wall bliss of great G consciousness. And that every one of those obstacles is also you. And that too is what invocation is all about. Getting all the phony little yous out of the way in order to make room for the great G. I enjoy doing that. Okay. I'm easily amused. It's one thing to have an intellectual grasp and appreciation of the great G. But it's quite another to allow oneself to gushingly melt in giddy adoration of it, or to it, however the English is there. I'll admit, as I was growing up, I had a real problem loving God. No, that's not correct. I had a problem loving what seemed to be the monster everyone around me was calling God. Nevertheless, as I grew older, I knew that if I was ever going to evolve into a sane and competent magician, if I ever hoped to perform a proper invocation and become duly and truly connected with the divine above, I'd have to come to grips with my deep-seated negative attitudes. I'd need to discover how to open my heart and fall in love with the great G, and set off the divine love feedback that I spoke of a moment ago. And that feedback is kicked off when you send out an undiluted, focused ray of love toward the beloved, and at the same moment are prepared to receive back the same intensity of love, to receive that back from the beloved. It creates a love feedback, like when you put a microphone to a speaker. My first challenge was to settle on a tangible image, a form, a name for this formless and most abstract of abstract spiritual concepts. It would seem logical that I'd try to personify the great G in the likeness of one of the deities of my religion. After all, as a practicing Thelemite, archbishop of my church, my life is not bereft of gods and goddesses, foremost of which is a trinity of infinities that define fundamental principles of Thelemic cosmology. And those are Nuit, the Egyptian goddess of the night sky, often depicted in Egyptian art as azure in color, tall and slender, arching over the earth. She is the infinity of an ultimately expanded universe, like the circumference of a circle. Hadit, the second in the Trinity, Hadit is Nuit's lover. In Thelemic Egyptian iconography, Hadit is depicted as the winged solar disk. He is the infinity of an ultimately contracted universe. The point in the center of the circle. If Hadit were a phenomenon of physics, I see him in his most fundamental character as the pre-Big Bang singularity. Ra-Hur-Khuit is the third, the hawk-headed, crowned and conquering child of the union of Nuit and Hadit. Because Nuit's expansion, the infinite out, and Hadit's contraction, the infinite in, are both infinitely everywhere, so too must be their points of contact. This infinite contact creates Ra-Hur-Khuit, a field of operation in which the universe can manifest. Now, Nuit, Hadit, and Ra-Hur-Khuit are perfectly lovely cosmic concepts. They're awesome, in fact. More than enough to qualify as proper deities to invoke. But as much as I love my religion and the iconography of ancient Egypt, and as much as I respect these profound concepts, I personally find it very difficult, at least initially, to get all emotionally warm and fuzzy at the thought of loving and being loved by the cold, expanded universe, its dimensionless center, and everything that lies in between. I also consider myself a Hermetic Kabbalist, and as such, I worship the great G as the threefold negativities that precede creation: Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof R. The concept of these three varieties of nothingness is as cool as modern jazz, and in my mind catapults esoteric Judaism into the subtle stratosphere of Zen Buddhism, and vice versa. I sip my espresso and snap my beatnik fingers to applaud such hip, transcendent realities. But honestly, how can I be expected to warm up to these three wacky kinds of nothing? If my magical career was to evolve, I realized I would need to find a sweet and simple God upon whom I could project all the infinite and sublime great G concepts that already held my soul in jaw-dropping awe. I needed to gather all my infinities and omna-everythings and bundle them together into one irresistible and lovable package. And so I set to work combing the pantheon of world religions, great and small, in search of a deity whose image and character resonates with my peculiar menu of spiritual programming. And about 10 years ago, probably 20 years ago now, I settled ever so comfortably on a deity that fills the bill perfectly: the pot-bellied remover of obstacles, Ganesha. Now, before you read anything unduly sectarian into my special relationship with Ganesha, I want you to know that I do not claim to be a devotee of Ganesha in the orthodox sense of the word. I do not belong to any Ganesha cults or sects. I don't travel to Ganesha pujas or festivals, nor have I memorized 108 names of the Lord Ganesha, although they're wonderful beyond words. Also, be clear on this, I'm not advocating that you or anyone else need to select the image, character, or concept of Ganesha as your tangible icon of the intangible, the supreme consciousness of the cosmos. It's your life, your spiritual cosmos, your magic. You are your own magician. Get your own God. If Ganesha floats your great G devotional boat, fine. It's no business of mine or anyone else's. Okay. That's where Sunday school ends today. Let's see if I can get us another round of Pop Goes Ganesha. Now remember, I do 4.5 rounds of Ganesha's name as my mantra. Have a good Sunday school. Enjoy your 4th of July tomorrow. In honor of the 4th of July, or in respect of the 4th of July, where it's been canceled because of lack of independence, I'll still be here tomorrow if everything goes well. So we'll see you tomorrow. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.